Depression is not caused by a chemical imbalance. That is the headline of the weekend. Or at least there's no evidence backing the serotonin hypothesis of depression. So this is what researchers with the University College London have found after conducting a meta-analysis, which is a high-quality review of dozens of studies, and it was published in a peer-reviewed journal. So this is the gold standard of psychological research. They summarized their research by saying there's no consistent evidence of there being an association between serotonin and depression, and no support for the hypothesis that depression is caused by lowered serotonin activity or concentrations. Now, this is not surprising to the researchers and scientists who study depression. They've known for decades that depression is a multifaceted disease without a single cause. But 85 to 90% of the public do believe that depression is a chemical imbalance, and that's one reason why so many people take antidepressant medication. More than 1 out of every 8 American adults and 1 in 6 adults in the UK take an antidepressant medication. And, that's not the only reason they take an antidepressant medication. It's because they're depressed and they want some relief from this terrible disease. And I'll address how medication can be a good treatment option a little bit later in this video.
Stopping it there, and welcome to Mika Reaction Reviews, where we react to things on the internet, same day, same shirt, different video. And today we're reacting to a different type of video, but I want to react to it. It's my channel, so we're gonna do it. Anyway, this woman talks about what I've already known. I've known this for years. The majority belief that most people have when it comes to depression is that it's a chemical imbalance. This should have been the talking point for decades now. This is what people are taught in schools. This is what the therapists and the psychology say on panels, on daytime TV and stuff like that, that it is a chemical imbalance. There is a multitude of reasons why somebody might feel depressed, and your depression might not actually be depression. It might be something like grieving or something else. I've talked about this book multiple times on this channel called Lost Connections, and this is one of the things they heavily dive into, and they have experts throughout the books with studies and tests to show that there is, again, lots of reasons why people are depressed, and even talk about how antidepressants were made, how it was discovered, why it was pushed into the public, and you will be quite surprised. I mean, according to the book and according to the doctors in the book, that it was quite an accident, actually. And the whole idea of chemical imbalance was just kind of, according to the book, bunk. That it was just a way to get it out there, and that doctors don't even fully understand the brain as it is. So how can they know that it's chemically imbalanced when they don't necessarily know what a balanced brain is supposed to look like? And so anyway, she's going to talk more about that throughout this video. I think this video is important because the West, in America specifically, take up the most pharmaceuticals on the freaking planet, and it only makes 5% of the freaking planet. Americans are highly too overly medicated when it might not even be necessary. And I'm not a doctor, so don't take any of my advice. I'm just speaking about what I've read and what she's gonna say in this video. She is a doctor, so I just think this is important because I just want to get the information out there to sort of help people. Everyone should have a choice to live a happy and healthy life if they choose to, and a lot of people unfortunately don't have that information, and a lot of people don't have the right information because they think they were given all the information, so they don't really feel the need to go search for more information. But you should always do your own research. You should always look for, be your biggest and best advocate when it comes to your mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual health and well-being. But anyway, I'm going to stop talking. If you like this type of videos, please like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the bell to get the notifications when I do upload. All of that really does help with the algorithm, guys. And we get right back into the video. All right.
I made a much longer video about the myth of a chemical imbalance earlier this year, but then I decided not to publish it because honestly, I was too afraid that people would feel blamed or judged or misunderstood. And I know that for many people with depression, they hate themselves so much that the chemical imbalance explanation has been a really important belief for you. It helps you not blame yourself or beat yourself up for how you feel. And I didn't want to undermine that without giving you something better, without something to replace it. So I do want to be really clear. Depression is not your fault, and there's something you can do about it. You deserve good information and good treatments.
It's sad that she felt like she had to hold back on this information because she didn't want to basically offend people. But I do understand what she's saying, that I don't want to basically crush your idea of something when you might feel like that's helpful to you without giving you an alternative. And I also like what she said, that giving you all the information gives you more power. That's what you truly called informed consent, when you have all of the information. And I'm glad she's being empathetic and sympathetic about it. However, I'm going to play devil's advocate here and say, yes, there's a lot of people that don't want to feel shamed about their mental health issues, because she's right, your mental health is not your fault. And a lot of people want to take the stigma away or out of having mental health issues, which is a good thing until it goes too far. However, there are people who use mental health as an excuse, as a crutch, as a get out of jail free card for everything, and as a way to just enable themselves. First, let me say this. I used to deal heavily with mental health issues. I used to deal with bedridden depression, like nearly piss myself in my bed because I didn't want to take the 10 steps to my bathroom because I was in such a deep, dark, horrible place in like just like torturous despair, where I felt like I was constantly being tortured by a demon on my back. Like, it was terrible. I dealt with this, offering myself idolization constantly for years, where it was just normal for me, and it was just a big part of my life. I thought I was going to lose my mind. I thought I was going to like snap and end up in some sort of mental asylum. Like, it was really, really, really bad at some point for me, and it didn't get better until I took accountability and responsibility for my mental health and not let it sort of take over anymore. And I know what I'm saying right now, people don't like to hear, because again, like she said, like, people don't like to feel blamed for their mental health. And again, it's like, it's not your fault that you're dealing with mental health issues, but your mental health issues is your accountability at the end of the day. And so I think not everyone fits in the boat what she's saying. I do think some people do, like, you see it all the time when someone does something wrong, and then when they get backlash, it's, but I have anxiety, but I have this, but I have that, but I have this, you know what I mean? Instead of like taking ownership for their mistakes, is always like, but my mental health is a problem, or I have mental health issues, so you can't hold me accountable because I have mental health issues, right? And there are people who become very selfish, self-centered, self-involved, and just mean and callous when they use their mental health issues as a crutch and as a reason, as an excuse, right? And so they project a lot of their stuff onto people around them. Again, no one can hold them accountable because I have mental health issues, and because I don't want to say allowing their mental health to take over, but because they're letting their mental health be their excuse and their reasoning and their escape. They're so hyper-focused on that. They're hyper-focused on themselves, and that's what makes them so self-centered and selfish. They don't really think about anybody else. They don't really think about how they're affecting the people around them. And sometimes they can't help it, depending on the level of mental health issues you have and the type of mental health disorders you have. But not all mental health people who deal with mental health is all the same. Everybody has their different reasons. So I'm glad she's being empathetic, and I understand why, if she was already kind of hesitant to even talk about this issue when this is just based on facts. But that's I just want to play that as someone who used to deal heavily with mental health issues. But anyway, I'm going to stop talking and get back into the video.
So if you want to watch my longer video, it's unlisted, but the link is in the description. That being said, the chemical imbalance hypothesis was widely promoted by pharmaceutical companies and widely accepted by the public since the early 2000s. Doctors, therapists, news outlets, and many social media channels have widely used this hypothesis to explain what causes depression and to promote the use of antidepressants as a treatment. And to be clear, there are biological contributing factors for depression, which researchers don't completely understand. There are correlations to things like nutrient deficiencies, hypothyroid, some medications can cause depression, gender contributes to depression symptoms, substance abuse, a genetic interaction with the environment, and possibly things like food allergies and inflammation and toxins, brain injuries, infections, and your gut microbiome, right? There are also physical changes in the brain, guts, and bodies of people with depression. We just aren't good at diagnosing them, and there is no single cause. There is no physical test for depression.
Stopping it there. That whole list there, yes to all of that, and I can dissect it, but I can dissect each point she made, but this video will be way too long. When she talked about gender being a factor, I know this might seem sort of out there, but the whole rapid onset gender dysphoria, that's heavily affecting adolescent teenage girls who are probably going through mental health issues like depression and anxiety, because they report once they get on testosterone, all of their depression and anxiety goes away. They feel really good about themselves. They don't feel anxious anymore. They feel more confident, right? I wouldn't know what the study is. I don't know if men or women deal more with the depression, but that spoke to me when she said that. The whole microbiome in your gut. There's been multiple studies that show what you eat heavily affects your mental health, your emotional health, your psychological health. And that would take another whole hour video to really go through all of that. The environment, people who live in more rainier areas. There's something called seasonal depression. There's a lot of fucking reasons, but again, it's not always, or it may not ever really be a chemical imbalance. But unfortunately, if people don't have the information, they're not going to be able to take care of themselves correctly in the long run. But anyway, let's get back into the video.
Or depression. We're much better at diagnosing the psychological and environmental causes of depression, things like abuse and trauma and stress and social isolation, the loss of a loved one. These are all more easily identifiable causes than any physiological cause of depression. Researchers with this study found a much closer correlation between stress and depression than serotonin and depression. Now, all of that being said, I was speaking to someone this morning and she basically said, well, then why the hell am I taking medication? Medication is still an effective treatment for many people. When compared to a placebo, it helps about 20% more people reduce their depression symptoms. Medication is also generally cheaper and easier to access than other treatments. And easy accessibility really matters with a disease like depression that saps your energy and your motivation.
She spoke about things that are easy to point out when it comes to what's triggering someone's depression or making someone depressed. One of the things she pointed out was the loss of a loved one. And in the book Lost Connections, they talk about this, where we have labeled natural and human emotions and processes as depression. Grieving over the loss of a loved one is a natural human journey to go through. That's a natural human process, is to grieve over someone, right? And yes, maybe it can start to spiral into long-term depression, but what happens is we usually medicate instead of allowing that person to go through the natural process of grieving, and then they never develop their own tools to deal with grieving in the future. So when I say long-term, the long-term solution, I feel like medication is a short-term solution. Even if you're on medication for many, many years, a lot of times you have to change the dosage, a lot of times you have to change medications, and a lot of times you have to add medications. I don't think it's a long-term solution. I do think there's a place for medication, but going back to grief, a lot of people, when they think of grief, they only think of the loss of a loved one, like she said. But people can grieve anything. You can grieve a broken relationship or a loss of a relationship. You can grieve a loss of a job that you love. You can grieve a loss of a friendship. You can grieve a loss of a dream life you thought you were going to have, a loss of a goal that you failed at. You can grieve a lot of things, but people don't realize that, so they don't connect how you're feeling to grief because it's maybe not connected to the loss of a loved one. But anyway, just like you get a cough or a runny nose or a fever, your body is indicating to you that there's something wrong. Another natural human process can be just feeling sad, feeling anxious, or even feeling depressed. It can be your body telling you something's wrong, change it, fix it. Just like a cough or a runny nose is your body way of telling you something's wrong, change something, fix it, right? But if you're constantly just covering up on medication, you're never really getting to the root problem of what's really going on. But anyway, I'm gonna stop talking, let's continue.
Researchers aren't sure why SSRIs work, but one hypothesis is that they promote neuroplasticity, which is the ability your brain has to change and heal. Now, I often recommend to my clients with severe depression that they explore their medication options with their doctor or psychiatrist. But medication is not the only treatment, and it's not as effective as we've been led to believe by the pharmaceutical companies. When you have depression, you deserve as much good information and treatment options as possible. Therapy, exercise, a nutritious diet, good sleep, and reducing stress usually get better results in the long term than only medication. And they can be used in conjunction with medication. You can do both.
She said long term, and that's exactly what I was on to. When I reached the point where I couldn't take it anymore, I did get on antidepressants, and for 2 weeks, they helped. And to be honest, I needed that 2 weeks because I really was at the end. If you don't give it to me now, I'm going to off myself. And so, but after 2 weeks, it started making me incredibly sick and even more depressed than I was before I got on the medication. And I was being lied to by my doctor, who, when I told him about my symptoms, he told me it had nothing to do with the medication. I found out later it had everything to do with the medication, but that's another story. But after that, I just decided to become a fanatic advocate and a fanatic researcher on how to help depression naturally. So now if I start to feel a bit down, not even necessarily depressed, just down, just blasé, blah, you know that feeling where you just don't feel your best. Instead of thinking I'm sick, I need medication, I immediately start to analyze, what am I doing in my life? What am I eating? Am I getting enough sleep? Am I getting enough sunlight? How's my mental state been lately? What have I been listening to and watching on TV lately? Who have I been around lately? Like that's my long list of assessments. And if I go through that and I go, that's off, I need to change that, I need to do that, I haven't been drinking enough water, I haven't meditated enough lately, then I adjust that, and that usually fixes the problem. And so instead of relying on medication, I build up my own tool chest on how to deal with my mental health on my own, instead of relying again on big pharma. I'm not saying I'm anti-medication, but I'm just saying America's way too pro-medication. The West anyway, not just America, but America again takes up most of the pharmaceuticals on this planet. But anyway, let's continue.
Depression is a real disease. It has a combination of biological, which is your brain and your body health, psychological, how you think and act, and environmental causes. So that includes trauma, stress, and abuse, and social issues, right? And depression is not your fault. No one wants to be depressed. No one just goes out and chooses one day, you know what I want? I want to be depressed, right? Blaming yourself, beating yourself up, believing that you're weak or something is wrong with you because you have depression is not the most helpful approach. But neither is the single-minded and most likely incorrect belief that depression is simply caused by a chemical imbalance, and the corresponding belief that your only option is to take medication. So both of these beliefs, the one side that, that I'm bad, weak, or defective, or that brain chemistry is causing my depression and there's nothing I can do about it. Both of these are two rigid and extreme ways of thinking that can essentially impair your ability to change the things that you can change to improve your depression. They make you more helpless. Depression is not your fault, but there are some things you can do about it.
I think what she's trying not to say, because I feel like she's really trying to be very empathetic and sympathetic so she's not offending people, is depression is not your fault. Mental health issues is not your fault. But they are and always will be your responsibility. No one else can do it for you but you, right? I agree with her that all the negative things that people tell themselves when they're depressed, I'm weak, I'm a loser, I should feel ashamed, all those things are bad and most likely just gonna make you feel more depressed. But it's not like it's not human nature to perpetuate negative things. People perpetuate negative things all the time, even if it's making them miserable, even if they're sad, even if they hate it. People perpetuate negative things all the time because they just get used to it, right? It's like abusive relationships or toxic relationships, or the women in tribes that perpetuate female genital mutilation. It harmed them and they turn around and harm their own children doing the same things. People perpetuate bad things and bad behavior all the time. And so you can still, it's not your fault, but I feel like, again, allowing it to be your crutch and allowing it to be your excuse and your shield and all those things, those are on you, in my opinion. However, the mental health issue itself is not your fault, and you shouldn't beat yourself up at all for it, but you should still make it your responsibility and your accountability or be accountable for where you go from there, right? Even if it takes a lifetime, as long as you're taking the steps to do something, that's what matters. But anyway, let's continue because it started raining and you're not going to be able to hear me soon.
So if we want to treat depression, we need a much more flexible and informed way of thinking about depression and mental health in general. There is actually so much you can do to improve your mental health and to treat and resolve depression and anxiety. There are research-backed treatments that are shown to be as effective or more effective than medication. And again, there's nothing wrong with medication. It's a fine treatment option when you understand the pros and cons. When we're dealing with a disease that is so impacted by how we think about it, as a society and as mental health professionals, we have to create a dialogue that empowers people. We can't reduce stigma by just teaching people that there's nothing they can do except take meds. Now, I also have an entire course on the mind and body treatments that have been shown to fight depression more effectively than medication. So if you'd like to learn more about that, just check out the link in the description. There really are so many options for treating depression. Now, I hope that the publicity that this study is getting helps us improve the conversation around depression and mental health, that it helps people get actually informed about what the research says about depression and not just the information that the pharmaceutical commercials taught us 20 years ago. And I hope this improves our dialogue so that we can actually help people get feeling better and get better at feeling. So thank you so much for watching and take care.
So that was therapy. That was therapy in a nutshell. I like the channel. Go check her out. I like what she said, that you cannot get rid of stigma by telling people there's nothing they can do about it. And I think that's the way a lot of people think you get rid of stigma, by just saying they have no choice in the matter, so you can't talk about it. And I think that's just the stupidest way to go and buy things, because I believe giving people the most amount of information and giving them the power to change something is the best, most empathetic thing you can do for another human being. But lying to someone and saying there's nothing you can do about it, making them completely helpless and making them a complete victim to their mental health instead of victors, is the worst thing you can do for another human being. Anyway, guys, tell me what you think in the comment section below. What I said, what she said in the comment section below. Please like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell to get the notification when I do upload. All of that really helps with the algorithm, guys. And if you'd like to support the channel any further, you can donate. My PayPal me link in the description box below and also in the comment section. Of course, it helps, but you don't have to. You can just like, comment, subscribe. And if you like, you can also super thanks. I have a second travel vlog channel. I travel as a lifestyle, or I live abroad. If you'd like to know where I am in the world, you can go to the description box below and also in the comment section. Hit the link. Go subscribe to my travel vlog channel and or follow me on my travel Instagram. My storage is usually what's most up to date. And I also have my second channel, Speak Freely. Links down below. And you guys have an amazing day. Take care of yourself. Bye.